Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, and I have another review for you. Uh, from Ablaze Comics, this is Animal Castle, issue number 1. It is written by Xavier Dorison. Artist is Felix Delep. Colors is by Felix Delep and Jessica Bodlard. And then lettering is Tom Napolitano. Latin. I know I butchered those names. I apologize. I'm just bad with names. Um, I'll show you off some of the art at the end of this review. But let's get into it. The book starts off, and it's basically set up in like medieval style, and it talks about that there's this castle, and it used to be like run by some people, and for some reason they just up and left. The animals got left there. Now all the animals kind of run the castle, and no humans have come back. Um, and now they have set it up where there's like kind of a hierarchy system within the castle that the animals abide by. They use buttons as money, stuff like that. The book starts off, and it starts off with like an execution, and there's a chicken being executed by a militia of dogs. You find out that the dogs are kind of like the knights. They're basically like the militia, the soldiers kind of thing. They usually look like Doberman pinchers or like pit bulls and stuff like that in the book. But there is a rooster that is leading them, and basically he is holding the execution. He is accusing the chicken of stealing her own egg. That supposedly, like, at least once a day they have to give tithes to the castle or something like that, and with the chickens only being able to produce eggs, they at least have to give one of their eggs a day or something like that, and the chicken is being accused of not giving the egg over or something like that. The chicken is in like mild confusement with most of the regular citizens, which are regular animals like horses, bunnies, different animals. And everybody's kind of confused, but eventually they do execute the chicken, which is basically the dogs, eating the chicken while she's, tied to a pole. The book moves along, and then we catch up with Mrs. B, and Mrs. B is just a cat that recently lost her husband, and her husband did most of the work within the castle, and now since he passed away, she is forced to take his position or something like that. And it's kind of not a work for a female cat, it's more of a work for a male cat, but she's still putting in the work and still doing the work, just maybe not as fast as her husband was doing. But it might be just maybe she's not used to the work, having just starting it, this type of work in her life, kind of thing, where her husband might have been doing it her whole life. It finally gets to this one scene where they're supposed to be, she's supposed to be taking this rock, and she's been carrying this rock from like the lowest point of the outside of the castle all the way inside, and then eventually, up some scaffolding, and eventually she gets it where they're supposed to get the rock in place, and she keeps stating that she thinks they gave her the wrong rock, and if they'll wait so she can go get the right rock and everything, and the dog that is overseeing everything, he's kind of impatient, and he just keeps telling her, go ahead and put it in, and try and fit it in, and it doesn't work, and the whole wall and scaffolding ends up collapsing and everything, but she ends up getting blamed for it. The book kind of jumps over to that night, and they kind of let you know what Mrs. B has to deal with just at home kind of thing. And where she is living, there is like, it's kind of like a motel that's like close by or something like that, but like there is a like male rabbit that is like this like 24-hour like hotel going, like kind of like male prostitute situation going on, where he's just servicing female rabbits, but like by the second kind of thing. That's how the book kind of states it, and he just has a long line of female rabbits that never end. It's kind of the situation where she's trying to get sleep and she can't because of all the noise and the pleasure coming from the female rabbits. Eventually we do find it's more dire than the book lets us know, but she's running out of money. She does have children, like she's only able to really pay for the housing that she's staying at, and she's having problem like getting the buttons to provide money for kids. So they do show Daisy, and Daisy is a goose that comes in and helps out Mrs. B, eventually giving her like some buttons and stuff like that, so her, the kids and her can go get some food. They do jump over where everybody in the castle is kind of like the working class and the poor class citizens in the castle, where they do this distribution thing where they hand out food. They trade food for buttons, kind of thing. Like when the distribution first started, the rooster that leads the militia, the dogs and everything, he basically states that the rations are going to be cut in half for the same amount of buttons or something like that. And Daisy, the one that was talking to Mrs. B, kind of gets uppity. The crowd is already butthurt. They're mad and upset, but they were kind of going along with it. And Daisy kind of speaks up, and she's like, "No, you're going to give us the regular amount of food for the buttons that we've been paying, and you're not going to change nothing. You can't do this to us," kind of thing. And she was like, "We got a voice. Like, what you going to do about it?" And all of a sudden, all the animals, and we're talking about horses, cows, regular farm animals and stuff, but there's deer and other kind of animals there. But they kind of start like bum rushing the stage, because behind the stage is a door where they keep all the food or whatever, and it's basically this like this riot of these these animals that are coming after the dogs and everything. And the book kind of jumps over to Mrs. B, and she's basically like grabbing her kids and trying to get the heck out of there. Mrs. Daisy kind of gives them a push and guides them out of the crowd, and then she goes back to the riot, trying to attack the dogs, getting to the door. It gets crazy by this point. It's exactly what you think it is. It gets just as violent, because all the animals that are going up against the dogs, they're not really violent animals. So of course, it starts off really bad, where the dogs are just instantly biting and taken out. But for the most part, the riot, it's the in numbers thing. And at first, it looks like the rioters are gonna hold the dogs back kind of thing. Miss B ends up taking her kids, and they end up running in down an alley. She ends up grabbing like a fallen comrade, like a duck or something like that, that gets injured, like trampled by the riot kind of thing. She gets her kids to safety, but like after everything's like the group that was following her, they eventually pass, and she kind of like hides in this little gutter thing. She eventually like tells her kids to hide and everything, and she goes and checks back in the square where they were like guarding the door and everything to check on how the riot was going on, because everything got real quiet. As she goes out to the middle, it's basically everybody was dead, just entrails and feathers and fur, and the dogs ripped into them real badly. And that's basically besides Mrs. B walking up and looking at the door, and now at the door, Daisy, the goose, is bolted to the door, kind of like with a spear in her chest, and all her insides open with a Daisy coming out of her mouth. But they basically killed all the rioters that were trying to upstage the militia, and that's where the book leaves off. I'll show you some of the art. Honestly, I love this issue. The art was it was really good in my opinion. I'm not going to say it was great, or I'm not going to say it was bad or anything, but in my honest opinion, it was above just regular. The story itself was kind of what I thought it was going to be. It's just kind of like a new age version of Animal Farm, which there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of new readers and that kind of stuff. But starting with the first page, just going to show you some of the art as it goes through, kind of pinpoint some stuff as it happens. But overall, I mean, it was a great book, and all the hype that is behind it. It's one of those books where it's deserved. It's kind of like it was, after I got done reading it, I was pretty impressed, especially because I had very little on the synopsis on this book. This is kind of the the very ending of the book, and I'll kind of just show you a little bit of the violence that ensues, just to kind of paint a picture. But that's kind of the end game right there. But and my suggestion, if you have a chance to pick up this book, I highly suggest it. Y'all have a great night. I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye.